Hi, everybody. I'm here with the hilarious comedian Graham Elwood. Also, Robert Yassamur is with us today, Hank Thompson. We're talking about what's going on in North Dakota. And here's Robert. So you know what's going on in North Dakota is they're building a pipeline underneath the Missouri River, and it's going to burst and pollute the water that millions of people use, especially Native Americans. And it's also going defiling their burial grounds, their sacred burial grounds, and they're doing this all illegally. Just so you know, and the government's allowing it to happen, right? They're supposed to do a big environmental study. They didn't do it because the way they're doing it is they're just getting section by section. They're getting it okayed as they go along, which is not how you're supposed to do it. Anyway, there's lots of things they're doing wrong. But here's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's going to tell us this is what he says is going on there, and let's take a listen.
Well, this is kind of the spirit of the front line in the battle over the transition from an old energy economy to a new energy economy. And we know that we have to do that. And we know that if we really had true free market capitalism, it would have happened, because today wind and solar are much cheaper than the old energy fuels.
I did not know that. Did you know that, Graham? You're an environmentalist. Did you know that?
Yeah, they've gotten cheaper and cheaper because what has happened is you've got people like Elon Musk who just developed a solar panel that you put on your roof and you can't see it. It's not like the big clunky squares that you see. And it's becoming cheaper because, first of all, I talked to a guy who worked for a wind farm company. On a plane, we were traveling through Texas, just a guy talking on a plane. And he said there's enough wind in the Dakotas to generate 60% of America's fuel needs.
No shit.
And I said, what's the problem? He goes, well, there is the distribution of electricity. That infrastructure just needs to be updated. Because if you think of electricity, I'm not an electrician. I'm paraphrasing what much smarter people have told me. It's like water. You lose a little bit of it. Like if you have run a long hose, you lose a little bit of it. So that's the issue. And how do you collect all of it and hold it and distribute it? So battery life is, because we've seen from like the cell phone and computers, they get smaller, they get more efficient. So that is what has happened with alternative fuels.
Yes, and also, but what he said about infrastructure is true too. To say that it's cheaper, to say it's cheaper and cheaper is not a complete picture. There's a lot of infrastructure issues. Batteries do need to be improved, but also batteries are incredibly polluting. This isn't. I mean, it's just not as simple as that. And I'm not denying that oil conduits are problematic. I'm just saying, like, it's very simple-minded to say, like, okay, we can go to renewables tomorrow. We can't. It's just not there yet.
He's had a little more to say about this, so let's listen.
So the only way that the carbon cronies can keep their domination in the marketplace is by constructing a lot of infrastructure so that we are invested. The people who invested in Citibank and Wells Fargo and the pension funds who invest in this pipeline now have to see oil going through that pipeline 40 years, even long after any justification for oil is long gone. And of course, we're not going to buy it in this country because we're going to be switching to wind and solar and electric cars. So they're trying to build the infrastructure that allows them to sell it to poor countries to continue polluting the globe. And that doesn't make sense for anybody. And,
So those 2 points I think are really good that he made, that they're investing, these Citigroup, Wells Fargo, they're investing in these pipelines, and it's going to take like a 30-year for it to get a return, their full return on this. So it's not like we're going to have this pipeline for 5 years and then when we go on renew, and it's not even for energy for our country. This is a pipeline, so they're trying to get it so they can ship this to other poorer countries who aren't on the new renewable energy, that are still using. So that's what they want to do. This is for 40 years to export oil to poorer countries, right?
Well, also, yes, that's true. That they definitely want to do that. You also got to understand, going back to clean fuel, what the utility companies and the energy companies have always been fighting, they don't want you to have solar panels and a wind turbine in your backyard.
That is correct.
You could be completely sustainable that way. They need to collect that. They need to make you have to buy it. So they need us to be dependent upon this.
Yes.
So they need to create this. I mean, the internal combustion engine hasn't changed in 80, 100 years or whatever, however long it's been around, 90 years. And so it's funny to me because if you go to like hydrogen fuels, a friend of mine was at a seminar for hydrogen fuels maybe 5-6 years ago, and all the
A lot of fucking at that seminar.
oh man, that was fucking.
Everybody goes up to the hotel room and just bangs the fuck out of each other.
Fucking yeah.
All right, come
fuel
on.
Be serious. And he said all the hydrogen guys were just sitting there. Hydrogen's ready to go. We just need the infrastructure for it. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh, it's a big undertaking. It's not that big of an undertaking. It's just who owns what Robert F. Kennedy is saying is correct. They are blocking any sort of expansion or inclusion of alternative fuels. They just can't have that. They just can't have you on your own, making your own energy, growing your own food, because then you don't need to work or buy their bullshit or get a bank or any of that crap. They just can't have it. That's what this all is about. Like it's
like you can't have energy unless we can make money off it.
Exactly.
All right, he has a little bit more to say.
I think the most troubling part about this is that the American people are watching a company that is breaking the law. It's an outlaw corporation that is violating American laws. And then you have peaceful protesters who are just saying, we just want you to obey the law. And the state, instead of coming down on the side of the peaceful protesters who are advocating law and order, are instead deploying the military power, the awesome military power of the state, plastic bullets, tear gas, and these sound weapons against the people who are peacefully asking for law and order on behalf of the criminal.
So there you go. Yeah, that is upsetting. That it's happening right in plain view. By the way, that the law enforcement is there to enforce illegal activities from a corporation that is also criminal.
And wasn't there like a nice white community that voted this down and said no and sent?
Yes. So there was. Yeah. So I'll have to get all the particulars, but I did read that story about how this. A nice white community said we can't have that coming here
it's
and polluting
unsafe.
it, and so they're redirecting it to go fuck with these people.
Well, wait a second. One of the things that you should note, though, is that if there is transportation of oil in this country, pipelines are much safer than railroads, which are the only other alternative. Railroads are tremendously dangerous way of transporting oil.
Yeah, it's all dangerous. Pipelines leak all the time. In fact, the company I just bought, Energy Transfer Partners, Sunoco, has the worst.
Hey, when a wind turbine breaks, how many people get hurt? Just the guy standing underneath it?
It spills wind all over the place.
Oh, right. And it contaminates. Yeah. There's a wind contamination.
Then you got to get a guy to clean the ducks off the wind. Got to get it off the birds and all the hell they get covered with wind.
Oh,
I think that Kennedy made a really interesting point, which is, a lot of these energy companies, they can find ways of making money in a new economy, but his point that the banks don't, that the banks are amortized out, they're committed for a long haul. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah,
because the reality is General Electric is making money hand over fist on wind turbines. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are plenty of companies that could make. Matter of fact, the way our government is run, if we really wanted to switch over to an all renewable economy, those are the people we'd look to. We would look to
Boeing.
All the, we would look to all the people who basically make our energy now because they are the infrastructure experts. So the fact of the matter is that those guys are making money no matter what. The people that are driving it are large banks that want to get paid back and investors.
Like it's almost like
the bank thing. If we brought that up before, is that relatable to this?
Do you think the banks have too much control in our culture? I don't know.
Nah.
It's not like they run everything.
Yeah. Everything.
Graham's got a movie. What's it called?
Earbuds, the podcasting documentary. It is available at comedyfilmnerds.com. You can download it for as little as $7.99. Standard def, high def, bonus features. Pre-order the DVD.
We'll put a link Right there.